There is a very disturbing trend happening in our modern culture, a very disturbing trend with very disturbing consequences. And what I'm talking about is the stifling of creative comedic genius and the cancellation of comedians. In this video, we're going to have a look at Konstantin Kisin making an absolute fool of a woke mainstream journalist that tries to challenge him on the idea of cancelling comedians. And then I'm going to take you through why it's not only okay for comedians to push boundaries, it's absolutely essential to a healthy society. Let's get into it.
You've been writing about this today. I know you feel strongly about all this. People will be wondering, what did Jerry Sadowitz say? We're not going to go into that in any specifics because some of the words themselves are too offensive for us to broadcast. But he argues, as we've said, context is everything. This was part of a much broader act. Let me ask you this. Is it ever okay to use overtly racist, misogynistic, homophobic language in a comedy act?
Well, you said it yourself in your introduction that it's all about the context, and I'm afraid there's a very large number of people commenting on this story who haven't seen Jerry Sadowitz or haven't seen his show. And it's a very interesting thing that seems to be applied only and exclusively to comedy. Like if you go to watch Macbeth with your family, you don't come back going, oh, I saw a play and then this guy went mental and stabbed his friend. You go, it's a performance, it's a theatrical performance. And the character of Macbeth and all the other characters in that piece are characters, theatrical characters, in exactly the same way that Jerry Sadowitz's act is a comedic character. And so what a character may do is completely different.
Yeah, but listen, I mean, I've seen Jerry Sadowitz live in the last couple of years. I went to see him myself. He is very offensive, he is very challenging, but he's not an obvious character. It's not like Steve Coogan playing Alan Partridge. He comes on and maintains this act as he has done right through his entire career. And it's not obvious necessarily what he's doing and how he's doing it. But let me ask you again my initial question.
To whom?
Is
Sorry,
it, well, necessarily to everybody in the audience. But let me just go back to my first question. Is it ever okay then to use overtly racist, sexist, homophobic language in a comedy show?
Well, as I explained, if there is a character that is doing a performance, then they may be able to do things that a person expressing their opinions may not. This is one of the problems with what the Pleasance has done in this case. Instead of saying we don't like his material, what they actually said, if you go and read the statement, is we do not agree with some of the opinions Jerry Sadowitz expressed, as if a comedy character is the same as a person's opinions. And this is the problem. We seem to have forgotten that, yes, some words are very offensive, but he didn't say them on the BBC One Scotland show. He said them in the context of a very specific comedy performance. I strongly, by the way, disagree with you that it's not obvious that this is a character. I remind you, this is a man who exposes himself on stage as part of his act and has been doing this for a very long time. Going to a Jerry Sadowitz show and being offended is like a vegan going to a steak restaurant and being horrified that there's dead animals on the table. It's ridiculous.
So what we have here essentially is a venue censoring an act. Does that concern you as an industry? We're already hearing reports tonight that a venue in Dundee is now considering a gig that he's supposed to be doing there.
Well, it's not something that concerns me. I've been talking and writing about this for many years now. The comedy industry is going to be destroyed by this process because what will happen is people like me and many others who want to do challenging things and push the boundaries, they're going to go online, and then you're not going to have the stand-up tour in the country in anything like the same way. It would also mean over time that the Edinburgh Festival becomes less appealing and fewer people will come and perform there and fewer people come and watch shows there. We have seen only in recent years the cancellation of the MASH report, the cancellation of Mock the Week. I'm told that Live at the Apollo is next. This culture of censorship and restriction is destroying comedy, and it will destroy the TV comedy that many millions of people have been enjoying for years, as it already has done with other shows. And this process will continue.
Yeah, just speaking from a personal experience, as I said, I went to see him a couple of years ago in Constantine. One thing that I found actually quite troubling that night was I sensed that quite a lot of people in the audience were there so they could laugh at a bit of racism because they don't get the chance all that often. Does that trouble you?
If I were a mind reader like you, it would trouble me. I have no idea why the people were enjoying his show. I have more faith in human beings than perhaps you do. I believe that people are able to understand irony and very clever comedy that Jerry Sadowitz does.
Well, as you correctly point out, I was there, you weren't. I was watching what was going on around me and trying to assess who thought what about it. But listen, it was fascinating to hear.
How did you assess that? Sorry.
Well, just by judging, listen, by watching people watching their body language and listening to them around the venue.
You can tell what someone thinks.
No,
from
I'm not.
Their body
I'm not saying I knew
Very
what they were
impressive.
thinking. I'm just saying it struck me that that might have
No,
been
no,
the
you
case.
did say you knew what they were thinking.
No,
You said exactly that. You said that you knew that
I said
they
I
were
was
there to
concerned
laugh
they
at the
might have been.
racism.
But listen, we are out of time, and it's been fascinating to hear your opinions this evening. Constantine, thank you very much indeed
Thank you for having
being
me.
with us this evening.
So Constantine sums it up absolutely perfectly there. It's all about context. And you can imagine if there was a comedian that was just there to be racist or to be misogynistic without doing anything intelligent, no one would go and see that comedian. There has to be some sort of creative context that these jokes are told within. But unfortunately, some would rather just get offended and white knight on the behalf of other people and have these comedians cancelled instead of trying to understand the intricacies and the nuance of what they're really talking about. You see, comedians are meant to be subversive and avant-garde. They're meant to be pointing out the absurdities of the world and prodding the fringes of what we deem to be acceptable. The beauty of comedy is that it transcends our identity. Comedians are meant to make you laugh, but the best ones are philosophers. The best ones can make you rethink how you view the world. The best ones can make you challenge your own biases, because the best comedians slice straight through bullshit.
They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets.
Stand-up comedy is the ultimate manifestation of freedom of expression. People are able to make fun of the powerful and the institutions that we live in. Powerful people should be walking on eggshells around comedians. They should be hoping that they're not a part of Dave Chappelle's next special, because the role of the comedian is to show that the emperor wears no clothes. And this is not a new phenomenon. In the olden days, it was the court jester's role to make the king laugh, to bring the king back down to earth, make them realize what's really important, and try and stop them from becoming too high and mighty and pompous. Furthermore, sacred clowns have existed in many cultures in antiquity, and the role of the sacred clown is to deflate the ego of the powerful and remind them of their inherent fallibility. You might even think that Buddha was a sacred clown because of the way he mocks ego. And make no mistake, the role of the sacred clown is just as important today, if not more, than it ever has been. And let me show you a perfect example of a modern-day sacred clown.
Apple roared into the TV game with a morning show, a superb drama, yeah. A superb drama about the importance of dignity and doing the right thing, made by a company that runs sweatshops in China. So, well, you say you're woke, but the companies you work for, I mean, unbelievable. Apple, Amazon, Disney. If ISIS started a streaming service, you'd call your agent, wouldn't you? So, if you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, right? You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. So, if you win, right, come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God, and f*** off, okay? So, it's already 3 hours long.
Now, for many, this was one of the best things that they'd ever seen, is Ricky Gervais just giving it to all of these A-listers and all of these elitists right between the eyes. And this is not to be underestimated, because what Ricky Gervais is doing there is he's mixing the sacred with the profane. He's using comedy to show us that no matter who you are, no matter what movie you're in, no matter how much money you have, we are all subject to the unavoidable and omnipresent fallibility that comes with being a human being. He allows us to peek behind the veil of elitism. He reminds us that nobody is above ridicule. And that is very, very important, because it is fundamentally true. And nobody and nothing should be off limits to comedians. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you would like access to uncensored, exclusive content and to join the Rattlesnake TV community and support the channel so that I can bring the best content possible to you as often as possible, then please consider hitting the link in the bio, rattlesnaketv.locals.com, and support the channel. And if you want to watch another clip, click right here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, if you get value from these videos, then click right here. Until next time, I'm Jake. This is Rattlesnake TV.